Hello, everyone. Welcome to U.S. Immigration Info. Thousands of families and visa applicants are watching the National Visa Center more closely than ever before, checking their emails constantly, refreshing their case status pages, and hoping for any sign of movement that indicates progress toward their ultimate goal of reuniting with loved ones or beginning new chapters in the United States. For many people navigating the complex immigration system, the NVC stage feels like the longest and quietest part of the entire immigration journey. It is a period characterized by uncertainty, limited communication, and the frustrating sense that time is passing without any visible progress being made on cases that represent years of hope and planning. Documents are submitted with meticulous care, every page checked and double-checked for accuracy. Fees are paid, often representing significant financial sacrifices for families who have saved for years to afford the costs associated with immigration processing. And then comes the waiting for review by officers who are processing thousands of cases simultaneously, waiting for qualification status that confirms all documents have been accepted, and waiting for that long-anticipated interview date that will finally bring families one step closer to being together again. This month, questions around NVC priorities and timelines are especially important because processing patterns are shifting in ways that affect different categories of applicants differently, and expectations need to be adjusted to reflect the current reality rather than outdated assumptions about how quickly cases should move. If you find this video helpful, please hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and give it a like so you never miss important updates delivered straight to your smartphone. Now, let us get into the video. In this comprehensive update, we are going to explain how NVC processing priority works right now in January 2026, providing you with the detailed information you need to understand where your case stands and what factors are influencing its progress. We will examine what timelines applicants are actually experiencing based on real data and reports from families going through the process right now. We will discuss which cases are moving faster and why certain categories receive priority treatment over others. We will also address which cases are slowing down and the factors contributing to extended wait times. And most importantly, we will help you understand what families should realistically expect in the coming weeks and months, so you can plan accordingly and maintain appropriate expectations during this challenging period. Let us start with what the National Visa Center is doing right now and how their current operations are affecting the thousands of cases in their system. As of January 2026, the NVC continues to focus its processing resources on documentarily complete cases, meaning cases where all required forms have been submitted, all fees have been paid, and all supporting documents have been uploaded to the system. However, it is critically important to understand that not all cases are treated the same way, even when they reach documentarily complete status. The NVC operates under a system of priorities that determines the order in which cases receive attention, and understanding these priorities is essential for setting realistic expectations about your own timeline. Priority is still being given to immediate relative cases of U.S. citizens, and this category includes spouses of U.S. citizens, unmarried children under the age of 21 of U.S. citizens, and parents of adult U.S. citizens. These cases occupy a special position in the immigration system because they are not subject to annual visa limits that restrict how many visas can be issued each year. This exemption from numerical limitations allows immediate relative cases to move more smoothly once documents are accepted because there is no need to wait for a visa number to become available. The theoretical pathway from document submission to interview scheduling is more direct for these applicants than for those in other categories. However, it is essential to understand that smooth does not mean fast in the current processing environment. Even immediate relative cases are facing review timelines that can stretch several months before qualification is confirmed, a reality that frustrates many applicants who expected quicker processing given their priority status. The NVC must still verify every document, confirm that financial sponsorship requirements are met, ensure that civil documents are properly translated and authenticated, and conduct whatever background checks are required for each individual case. All of these steps take time, and the volume of cases in the system means that even priority cases must wait their turn for officer review. For many families going through this process, the biggest frustration is the document review stage and the seemingly endless cycle of submissions, requests for corrections, and resubmissions that can extend timelines significantly. The NVC is carefully checking financial sponsorship forms to ensure that sponsors meet the income requirements and have properly completed all sections of the affidavit of support. They are examining civil documents like birth certificates, marriage certificates, divorce decrees, and police clearances to verify authenticity and ensure all required elements are present, and they are reviewing the affidavit of support with particular attention to tax returns, employment letters, and evidence of assets to confirm that sponsors can financially support incoming immigrants. Small errors that might seem insignificant to applicants can push a case back weeks or months in the processing queue. Missing translations for documents in languages other than English, even for documents that seem self-explanatory, will result in requests for additional evidence. Outdated financial evidence, such as tax returns that are more than a year old or bank statements that do not reflect current balances, can trigger additional requests. Inconsistencies between names as they appear on different documents, even minor variations in spelling, or the inclusion or exclusion of middle names can cause delays while the NVC seeks clarification. In January 2026, the NVC is being stricter in its document review than it was in prior years, and that stricter review approach is directly affecting timelines for applicants across all categories. This heightened scrutiny appears to be part of a broader effort to ensure that cases are truly complete before being forwarded to embassies for interview scheduling, reducing the likelihood of problems arising at the interview stage. While this approach may ultimately benefit applicants by catching issues early, it is contributing to longer processing times at the NVC stage and increasing frustration among families who feel their cases are complete but keep receiving requests for additional documentation. Now, let us talk about family preference categories, because this is where timelines feel the most uncertain and where applicants often experience the greatest confusion about why their cases are not moving forward. Family preference categories include several distinct groups, each with different priority levels and different wait times based on visa availability. Spouses and children of permanent residents, classified as F2A, occupy one of these preference categories. Adult children of U.S. citizens, both married and unmarried, fall into the F2B and F3 categories. And siblings of U.S. citizens are classified as F4, typically facing the longest wait times of any family-based category. All of these family preference categories remain heavily dependent on visa availability, as determined by the monthly visa bulletin published by the Department of State. Unlike immediate relatives of U.S. citizens, these categories are subject to annual numerical limitations that restrict how many visas can be issued each fiscal year. When demand for visas exceeds the available supply, which is almost always the case, applicants must wait until their priority date becomes current before their cases can advance to the interview stage. Even when the NVC completes document review and marks a case as documentarily complete, the case cannot move to interview scheduling unless the priority date is current under the visa bulletin. That means many families are technically ready for the next step, but still waiting in line for their turn to receive a visa number. In January 2026, the NVC continues to hold thousands of documentarily complete cases that cannot yet be scheduled for interviews due to visa backlogs that stretch years into the future for some categories and countries. These cases sit in a holding pattern, fully prepared but unable to advance because the visa numbers they need simply are not available yet. From the applicant's perspective, this can feel like nothing is happening, like their case has been forgotten or lost in the system. The silence from the NVC during this waiting period can be agonizing for families who have already waited years and see no end in sight. In reality, the case is frozen in place until a visa number becomes available, a process that depends entirely on factors outside the control of both the applicant and the NVC. The pace of visa bulletin movement depends on how many visa numbers are allocated to each category, how many people are applying within each category, and how quickly consulates are processing interviews and issuing visas. Retrogression, where priority dates actually move backward, can occur when demand exceeds expectations, pushing families even further from their goals. Understanding this dynamic is essential for maintaining realistic expectations during what can be an extremely long wait. Employment-based immigrant visa cases are also moving through the NVC system, but with uneven pacing that reflects the complex interplay of factors affecting different types of employment-based petitions. Priority workers in the EB1 category, and those with advanced degrees or exceptional ability in the EB2 category, tend to move faster through NVC processing than those in lower preference categories. This faster movement reflects both the priority status of these categories and the fact that visa numbers are often more readily available for applicants in these classifications, at least for applicants from countries that are not subject to severe backlogs. However, employment-based applicants from countries like India and China often face dramatically different experiences than applicants from other countries. Per-country limitations in the immigration system mean that applicants from high-demand countries must wait much longer for visa numbers to become available, even when they are in the same preference category as applicants from other countries who receive their visas much more quickly. This disparity creates significant frustration and a sense of unfairness among affected applicants who have done everything required of them but must wait years or even decades longer than similarly situated applicants from other nations. For workers abroad who have approved employment-based petitions, it is important to understand that even a fully approved petition does not guarantee quick interview scheduling. The petition approval by USCIS is just the first step in a multi-stage process that includes NVC processing, document collection, fee payment, and ultimately interview scheduling at a U.S. embassy or consulate. Each of these stages has its own timeline, and delays at any point can extend the overall process significantly. Workers who expected to arrive in the United States within months of their petition approval often find themselves waiting much longer than anticipated. Another key factor shaping NVC timelines right now is embassy and consulate capacity, a variable that has become increasingly important in understanding why some cases move quickly while others languish in processing limbo. The NVC does not control interview slots at U.S. embassies and consulates around the world. Their role ends once a case is documentarily complete and a visa number is available. At that point, the case is transferred to the appropriate embassy or consulate for interview scheduling, and the timeline from that point forward depends entirely on factors at the post level. Even after a case is documentarily complete and a visa number is available, scheduling depends on whether the assigned embassy has interview capacity to add new cases to its calendar. In January 2026, some U.S. embassies are moving steadily through their interview calendars, scheduling new cases promptly and processing applicants efficiently. Other embassies remain significantly backlogged due to a variety of factors, including staffing shortages that reduce the number of officers available to conduct interviews, security reviews that require additional time for certain categories of applicants, local conditions that limit operational capacity, and the ongoing recovery from disruptions that affected consular operations in previous years. This creates wide differences in wait times from country to country that have nothing to do with the merits of individual cases or the completeness of their documentation. An applicant whose case will be processed at an embassy with ample capacity might receive an interview notice within weeks of becoming documentarily complete. Another applicant with an identical case in terms of category, documentation, and priority date might wait several more months, simply because their embassy has a larger backlog or fewer resources to process cases. This geographic lottery effect is one of the most frustrating aspects of the current system for applicants who feel they have done everything right but must wait longer than others through no fault of their own. This is why two applicants with identical cases can experience very different timelines that seem inexplicable until you understand the role of embassy capacity in the process. One family may receive an interview notice within weeks and complete their immigration journey relatively quickly. Another family in the same category with the same documentation may wait several more months or even longer because their designated embassy simply cannot keep up with the volume of cases requiring interviews. Understanding this dynamic can help reduce frustration by providing context for why timelines vary so dramatically between different applicants. Another development affecting NVC processing that deserves attention is enhanced screening and background checks that are adding time to certain cases. While these additional review layers are not officially labeled as a pause or a systematic delay, they are quietly slowing down certain cases, especially those requiring extra verification for security or other reasons. The criteria for which cases receive enhanced screening are not publicly disclosed, and applicants often have no way of knowing whether their case is undergoing additional review until they notice that their timeline is extending beyond what would normally be expected. These checks are happening quietly in the background, and applicants often receive no explanation beyond generic status messages indicating that their case is under review. There is no notification that additional screening has been triggered, no timeline for when that screening will be completed, and no opportunity to provide additional information that might expedite the process. For applicants caught in enhanced screening, the experience is characterized by uncertainty and the frustrating sense that something is happening, but nobody will tell them what it is or how long it will take. For families going through this process, silence from the NVC is one of the hardest parts of the experience. The lack of communication, the absence of status updates, and the inability to get clear answers about what is happening with their case creates anxiety that compounds the already stressful nature of immigration processing. But in January 2026, silence does not automatically mean denial, and applicants should not assume the worst simply because they have not heard anything from the NVC in weeks or months. In most cases, silence means the file is waiting for review in the normal processing queue, waiting for capacity at the NVC or the designated embassy, or waiting for a visa number to become available under the visa bulletin. None of these situations represents a problem with the case itself, but all of them can result in extended periods without any communication from the government. So, what does this mean for applicants trying to plan their lives while waiting for their immigration cases to reach completion? The uncertainty created by NVC processing timelines affects every aspect of life planning, from employment decisions to housing choices to family planning. Applicants need practical guidance on what to expect and how to navigate this challenging period. First, and most importantly, expectations need to be realistic and grounded in the current processing environment rather than in hopes or assumptions about how the system should work. NVC processing in January 2026 is stable but slow. There is no system-wide shutdown that would indicate a major problem requiring immediate concern. Cases are moving forward, documents are being reviewed, and interviews are being scheduled. But there is also no sudden acceleration that would suggest wait times are about to decrease dramatically. The system is functioning at its current capacity, and that capacity is not sufficient to process the volume of cases quickly enough to meet applicant expectations. Families should plan for months of waiting, not weeks, especially if their case depends on visa availability under the bulletin or scheduling at an embassy with limited capacity. Second, preparation matters more than ever in the current processing environment where stricter document review means that errors and omissions will be caught and will delay cases. Clean, complete, and accurate documents are the best way to avoid unnecessary delays that extend already lengthy timelines. Every form should be reviewed multiple times before submission. Every supporting document should be checked for completeness, proper translation, and authenticity. Every piece of financial evidence should be current and clearly demonstrate that sponsorship requirements are met. Taking the time to ensure documents are perfect before submission is far better than rushing to submit and then waiting additional months for the NVC to review corrections. When the NVC requests corrections or additional evidence, responding quickly and correctly can prevent a case from falling further behind in the processing queue. Cases that require multiple rounds of corrections often experience the longest delays because each correction cycle adds weeks or months to the timeline. Understanding exactly what the NVC is requesting, providing precisely what they need without extraneous documents, and double-checking the correction before resubmission can help minimize the impact of these requests on overall processing time. Third, patience remains essential for getting through the NVC stage, but so does awareness of the factors affecting your case. Applicants should monitor both NVC updates and the monthly visa bulletin because movement in priority dates is what ultimately unlocks interview scheduling for many categories. Understanding where your priority date stands relative to current cutoff dates and tracking how those cutoff dates are moving from month to month can provide valuable insight into when your case might advance to the next stage. This awareness allows for more realistic planning and helps reduce the anxiety that comes from not understanding why your case seems stuck. Looking ahead, the outlook for NVC processing in 2026 is mixed and requires a nuanced understanding of the various factors at play. On one hand, agencies are working to maintain steady operations and reduce uncertainty for applicants. Resources are being allocated to process cases, staff are being hired and trained, and efforts are being made to improve efficiency in various aspects of the system. There is genuine commitment within the immigration bureaucracy to processing cases and moving families toward their immigration goals. On the other hand, high demand for immigration benefits continues to overwhelm available capacity. Staffing limits prevent the kind of dramatic increases in processing that would be needed to significantly reduce wait times. Policy-driven reviews and enhanced screening add time to cases that would otherwise move more quickly, and the structural limitations of per-country caps and category-based visa limits mean that some applicants will face years of waiting regardless of how efficiently the NVC operates. Improvement is possible, and there are reasons for cautious optimism that processing will become more efficient over time. But that improvement will likely be gradual rather than dramatic, and applicants should not expect sudden changes that dramatically reduce their wait times. For families waiting to reunite with loved ones, the NVC stage often feels like the final barrier standing between them and the life they have dreamed of building together. After years of separation, after completing the petition stage and receiving approval, after gathering documents and paying fees, the NVC becomes the focus of all their hopes and frustrations. Understanding how priority and timelines actually work within the NVC system can reduce anxiety by providing context for what is happening with your case. It can help you plan more realistically for the months ahead by setting appropriate expectations. And it can prevent the kind of panic that comes from not understanding why things are taking so long. We will continue tracking NVC processing trends closely and analyzing the data to identify patterns that affect different categories of applicants. We will bring you clear updates as soon as timelines shift or new guidance is released from the Department of State or the NVC itself. Our goal is to ensure that you do not have to rely on guesswork or rumors during such an important stage of your immigration journey. Accurate, timely information is the best tool you have for navigating this process successfully and maintaining your sanity while waiting for your case to advance. The immigration journey is rarely quick or easy, and the NVC stage is often the most challenging part of that journey because of the combination of long wait times and limited communication. But understanding the process, maintaining realistic expectations, and staying prepared with complete and accurate documentation gives you the best possible chance of moving through this stage as efficiently as the system allows. Your patience will be tested, but your persistence will be rewarded when you finally receive that interview notice and take the next step toward your immigration goals. That is all we have for this bulletin. U.S. Immigration Info Channel provides all necessary visa information and procedures for your U.S. immigration journey. It is important to understand the United States immigration processing steps, visa application requirements, processing times, forms, fees, and more. We will continue to provide all information about U.S. visitor visas, such as B1 and B2, work visas such as L1A, L1B, and H1B, student visas, green cards, immigrant visas, EB1, EB2, EB3, EB4, and EB5, and family immigrant visas. If you have not already, please subscribe to U.S. Immigration Info Channel. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video.